Hey, what's up YouTube? We're putting new front brakes on this 2008 Ford Escape, and there's a couple little tips and tricks I want to talk about to help your project go along a little quicker than it did for me. So, once you got your vehicle secured, whether it's jack stands, whatever, and get your wheel off, I like to stick the wheel right underneath here. Just in case something happens, it's not going to fall all the way to the ground. And also this will act as a support for when I take this caliper off. You don't want it dangling from your brake line. When you pull the caliper off, it will sit right on top of this tire and you don't have to worry about it falling. So it kind of does two purposes. I put these new brakes on last night, and this caliper here, this is the driver's side, is bad. Well, I didn't have time to go to the auto parts store, so I just put it back together and left it. And now I have the new caliper this morning, so I'm going to replace it here shortly. There's a couple things I learned and want to talk about. To get the original rotor off, there's going to be two retaining clips. There'll be like one here and one here. You can either spin them off or just cut them off with a pair of wire cutters. And after you do that, a little tip: you can get inside your vehicle and turn the ignition only to the on position. Don't start it. If you start it, it will not work. Turn it to the on position and then pump your brakes about 5 times, and you're going to feel the brake pedal get real hard. What that's going to do is relieve the pressure off of the brake piston. So then once you put your new pads in, they're much thicker. Well, you have to get this caliper over them thicker pads. You can squeeze this piston in to give you the clearance. You can still squeeze it in probably with a C-clamp if you don't do that technique, but that will relieve the pressure, and you can usually squeeze them in by hand. If not, I usually leave the old pad on and then use a pair of channel locks to squeeze in the piston, and then that will give you the clearance to put the caliper back over the new pads. So that's just a little tip. This has a special tool you're gonna have to either buy or hopefully you have in your toolbox, which I did not have, and it's a 9mm hex drive. I've got 3 Allen sets and some other hex drive sets, and none of them had a 9mm. And right here is where you're going to need it. That is the caliper bolt that holds it on to the caliper bracket. And these are going to be covered by these little dust caps. So right there on the back side of the caliper, you pull these caps off. They'll spin off, or you can pull them straight out. But inside here is that's a hex bolt. And I can show you a little better here on this new caliper. It's right there and right there. Most metric kits go from 8mm to 10mm, and a standard one will not work either. So you have to have that 9mm. If you can see from this angle here, I've got it all the way to the left, and that gives you more clearance, so that these caliper bracket bolts take a 18mm socket and they are on very tight. Well, with it angled out like this, it's really easy for you to get in here with a breaker bar. You can see it clears the fender. If you left the steering wheel straight, you won't have clearance to use a breaker bar. It's going to hit right here. So that's why I rotate the wheel out. And then I like to get those loose first, and then I like to get these loose, and then you can go from there by, you want to remove the caliper first. So once you get these 9mm bolts loose, this one here and there's one right there, then you got to get this little spring retainer loose. And I'll try to do this one-handed, but I like to just use a flathead screwdriver, get it down underneath there, and pops that retaining clip right off. That's kind of what that looks like. When you want to put this back on, it needs to go underneath right there. Have it underneath there. And then just with one hand you can pop it right back in place. So that's the easiest way to get it on and off, I think. Now that that's off, your caliper will go off like that and rest right there on your tire that you put under there. That easy. And then right there are the caliper bracket bolts, the 18mm that you already had taken off. I saw the bracket fell right out of there, so now that's off. Now you can pull off your old rotor and put your new one on. And my biggest advice is make sure you clean this rotor the best you can. Use brake cleaner or like the spray Goo Gone. Do not use the liquid Goo Gone, but something to get this rotor as clean as you can. And then you pretty much got reverse assembly. Put your rotor on there, and then you're going to put this caliper bracket back on, and then you're going to put the outside brake pad on the caliper bracket. But then the inside one, it's actually held in there by some spring clips. That's going to push inside that piston. There's going to be like a 2-inch diameter hole there, and that's what's going to hold that in place. You can kind of see right there. Now, if you're wondering what this purple stuff is, that is brake parts, a lubricant, and I think this whole tube is like $7. If you don't do brakes often, you can buy the smaller tube. But what that's going to do, you're going to want to put that stuff between any part that the brake pad contacts a metal surface. So here to here, and here to right there. What that's going to do is prevent any squeaking. If you've ever put on new brakes and they still squeak, it's not metal to metal contact, it's that this is vibrating extremely fast against another metal surface, and it sounds like a squeal or a squeak. And this lubricant will stop that. And you're also going to want to put it, which I didn't last night because I know I had to put a new caliper on, anywhere where this contacts your caliper bracket. Do not put a whole bunch on, but put it in there so that this will actually slide a little bit, and your brakes are going to work much better. So that's pretty much it on how to do your brakes on the, I think it's an 08 to maybe 2012, don't quote me on that, but I think those are the years that these are all going to be pretty much the same. So if you've done brakes before, it's not much different than anybody else, any other manufacturer, other than this 9mm hex drive, which was just a little bit difficult to find, but now I have it. Anyway, hope this video helped you guys out and saved you a little bit of time and frustration. Alright guys, thanks for watching.